Welcome everyone. My name is Joanna Salinas and I am the Outreach Coordinator with the Waukesha County Green Team. For those of you unfamiliar or new to us, we are a volunteer-based 501c3 nonprofit organization focused on promoting environmental sustainability here in Waukesha County communities through education, collaboration, and local action. And if you're new to Waukesha County, we are just to the west of Milwaukee County in Wisconsin. So we work with residents, businesses, schools, municipalities, and organizations. And we are really excited to gather all of you here this afternoon for this great presentation, which is put on in collaboration with the American Lung Association and the Green Neighbor Challenge. So this webinar is part of our Electrify Your Life series, where we help residents navigate the process of electrifying your homes. And so the format of today's webinar is we are going to ask everyone to type your questions as soon as you think of them right into the chat, or there is a question Q&A option for you. And at the end of the presentation, we will ask Ernesto and Andrew all of your questions that you can think of. So today we're excited to welcome Andrew Butts, who's the founder of Green Neighbor Challenge. Andrew's going to be in the background answering all of the technical questions you might have. And Ernesto Villaseñor, who is the Senior Manager of Nationwide Policy, Healthy Indoor Air with the American Lung Association. I hope I got that right, Ernesto. And Ernesto is going to be talking about the health risks associated with indoor natural gas. So without further ado, I will pass it over to you, Ernesto.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. So let me just, if you could give me a minute or two while I start sharing the screen and everything. Let's see. And I do apologize if my dog is barking in the background. He got a little excited right now. But yeah, without further ado, so let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Ernesto Villaseñor, and I'm with the American Lung Association. Thank you for being here today as we explore an important and often overlooked issue, which is the health risk of indoor natural gas in our homes, especially here in Waukesha County. So why does it matter in Waukesha County? And let's start with why this matters locally. Over a third of homes in Wisconsin rely on natural gas for cooking. When we use gas stoves and other appliances that are connected to methane gas, we're not just heating food, we're not just heating our homes, we're not just drying our clothes, we're releasing pollutants into the air that more often than not stay trapped, and we breathe them while we're breathing inside our homes. And that includes nitrous oxides, carbon monoxide, and fine particulate matter, all of which are linked to asthma, heart disease, and other chronic respiratory illnesses. Kids and people with chronic conditions are especially vulnerable. So let me go ahead and play a video now.
Americans spend about 90% of their time indoors, making good indoor air quality critical to the health of families. Cleaning products, mold and moisture, pests, and even the appliances that we use, such as our water heater, furnace, and stove, can all impact our air quality. Appliances that burn natural gas, propane, heating oil, or wood can release hazardous pollutants such as nitrogen dioxide, benzene, and carbon monoxide into our homes. Using these appliances may increase the risk of breathing problems, asthma attacks, respiratory infections, and other health harms, especially for children and the elderly. There are simple steps that families can take to protect ourselves from indoor air pollution, including ensuring we have a carbon monoxide detector, avoiding unnecessary wood burning in our homes, and using a vent hood or opening a window when cooking on a gas stove. Now is a good time to transition to healthier, efficient electric appliances. Making the change will improve indoor air quality and help our families breathe easier. Learn more at lung.org/healthy-efficient-homes.
So let's get back to the presentation. So let's look more specifically at pollutants from gas in Wisconsin homes and Waukesha County as a whole. When we start taking a closer look at what's actually coming out of our gas appliances, we have two major ones, which is nitrogen monoxides or NOx, which trigger asthma and worsen lung disease. You also have carbon monoxide and particulate matter, with fine small particulates, which can cause everything from headaches to severe cardiovascular issues. And one way you would know that you're getting a headache or this is really affecting you is if you're running a gas stove for like something long term and the ventilation is not that great, you could definitely start sensing the headache, or getting a headache. As you're doing that and getting exposed to that for longer and longer, it has more serious health consequences. And of course, there's benzene and methane, which are hazardous. Benzene is a known carcinogen, cancer-causing chemical, and methane is a potent greenhouse gas that can leak even when your stove is off. So as you're thinking about it, like when you're running your stove, even if it's off, you still have the pilot that's burning, that's running. Even if that is off, you still have the gas line that leads in. You still have the gas line that's connected to the stove that's also still running. And yes, gas lines are greatly constructed, but more often than not, depending on the age of your home, some of these they degrade over time and there are leaks. There can be leaks. How great or how small really depends on the age of the infrastructure within the home. So there are leaks associated with that. And not just a stove. Also, if you have a gas furnace to heat your water, there's also the pilot associated with that, which is always running to make sure that water runs and gets hot. And some dryers that are gas powered dryers also have that going on as well. So there's, even if you think that your gas stove is off or that ventilation is great, there are other areas and places where methane gas and some of these pollutants can leak from. And here's another quick video. This one is less than a minute long, that focuses on on a Stanford study.
Cooking on a gas stove emits benzene, a cancer-causing chemical. One lit burner can create kitchen benzene concentrations similar to secondhand smoke. Benzene drifts throughout the house and remains in the air for hours. Stanford University scientists measured bedroom benzene concentrations in multiple homes. Bedroom benzene concentrations spiked for hours after cooking with gas, often exceeding international benzene exposure limits. Benzene is a carcinogen. There's no safe level of exposure. Read the report.
And I will share that report as a follow-up that Joanna could send with an email. I will share this PowerPoint as well as other fact sheets associated with that. So now that we're looking at the local health impact, like we know the risk is not just theoretical, it's real and it's measurable. Studies show that gas stove use is linked to around 13% of childhood asthma cases across the US. And that information and that data has become more and more concrete over the years as we're starting to get more studies looking at not just methane gas usage in your home, but just really kind of using other furnaces or other appliances that use methane gas within the home. Research from Stanford shows that nitrogen dioxide levels indoors can often exceed what's considered safe, not just in bedrooms, but even long after cooking or heating stops. But even also too, some of these studies have showed that those levels often exceed EPA levels for outdoor air. So when some of these numbers, it's alarming that some of these numbers are exceeding even what is allowed or what is allowed outside when it's deemed and considered unsafe, which is really really alarming. And just over the from 2021 to 2023, the number of emergency department visits related to asthma in Waukesha County was 1,481. And this is kind of like a larger map of Wisconsin and the hospitalization rates per 10,000 people. Waukesha County ranks 65 in all the counties in Wisconsin as it relates to asthma emergency department visits. So it's really, as we're thinking about methane gas and indoor air quality, it's more than just the gas stove burning, the furnace running, the older infrastructure. Now one thing is talking about that exposure, another thing is seeing these numbers, which can be alarming. And of course, the some of these hospitalization rates increase or decrease depending on how new or old your house is, how well ventilated, how poorly ventilated, if you're living in apartments, how well they're managed, how old the building itself is, so on and so forth. And so let's talk about like immediate mitigation. What can you do right now as you're thinking about this? And I'm really approaching this not to be an alarmist, but really more, all right, I've seen this, I've learned this. What can I do right now? Some of the quick things, like if you have um and these don't require major investment. So if your stove has a venting hood, um, make an effort to use it every time you cook. I know there are times where I myself don't turn it on as often as frequent as I do, and I should be doing it. So one way to do it is just starting ventilation before you turn the stern off. If you don't have a venting hood, open a window, turn on a fan just to make sure, open a window and turn on a fan just to make sure that as you're running a stove, that the air doesn't just necessarily stay trapped there. Same thing too when you're doing laundry. If you have a gas stove dryer, making sure that it's properly venting out to make sure so that the air gets better. And yeah, and then another thing too is installing carbon monoxide detectors. More often than not, local counties, local fire departments offer these and provide these to you for free. But so you could always find out to see if that's freely available. But carbon monoxide detectors are relatively inexpensive, and installing those in kitchen and bedrooms, it's a small step, but it can make a big difference. A lot of carbon monoxide detectors would sound the alarm once it's reaching unsafe levels. So that's one immediate good way they could address that. As we're thinking about medium-term upgrades, when you're ready to do some upgrades, consider sealing old gas lines and getting them inspected. Sometimes there are rebates for energy assessments, for gas line inspections assessment as well. It really depends. And I know Andrew Butts could definitely answer that a little bit more. Then also, you can also upgrade to a certified outdoor vented range hood that's more effective at capturing emissions. And for homes, especially if you're using frequent gas use, consider looking at HEPA and carbon filter air purifiers. These reduce what you're breathing in day to day, and especially running those along with like a vented hood or having a window open and then just having an air purifier as you're cooking or doing other things at home really help out. And these are the gas lines and the inspections is not necessarily inexpensive, but depending on how much needs to be done can somewhat add up. Same thing too with the HEPA and carbon filter air purifiers. There's small ones, kind of like the one pictured, which you could put in your kitchen, that are about $120, $150. They could easily get more fancy, especially if you have a larger kitchen, a larger home, a larger apartment, that are a little bit larger, and those could definitely run upwards of $300 to $400. As we're thinking long-term upgrades, and this is kind of long-term in the sense of big investments, major investments. If you have, is your stove aging? Is your fridge due for an upgrade? It's a perfect opportunity to switch to electric appliances. they're cleaner, they're safer, and use less energy. And they're not only safe for your health, but often more energy efficient as well. So, but before doing those major purchases, and this is something that I recommend and others have recommended to individuals, if you're considering home renovations, get an energy assessment of your home, which can definitely help you plan for smarter upgrades, but even also too, as you're considering these upgrades, um, the energy assessment and the individual who provides that energy assessment could definitely let you know if your home is capable of doing certain upgrades, if not, what needs to be done. And there are some rebates associated with some of these upgrades, and immediate front door discounts. But more the energy assessment is usually around $650 to $800. It really depends on the size of your home and the contractor in your area. But they will tell you how well ventilated or poorly ventilated your home is. Where are the weak spots in terms of where is there energy loss, or where, and also to where there heat spots, where's heat or air trapped. And then also to they start looking at other things like um your your circuit, just to see if you are planning electricity upgrades or electrification upgrades, if your panel can handle it, if not, if that would be required. It's really great, just to seeing those assessments themselves, just to see like what could you do immediately, and then also what larger upgrades you can do and what's needed. And more often than not, the individuals who do the energy audits and the energy assessments, can help you connect with those rebates or other programs that can help minimize those costs associated with it. Um, that kind of wraps up like the health impacts, and kind of like the information that I had. Let's see if there are any Q&As. Great, great question, Hector. So the question that Hector asked is, do electric appliances release any of these pollutants during heating and cooking? And I think Andrew's about to answer that question. And I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and answer it live. It's complicated, but I would say it's significantly reduced in the sense of, now that you have, like, let's say you have an induction electric stove, you no longer have to worry about a gas line or methane gas to heat up your food or to cook your food. If you're upgrading your clothes dryer to electric, or going to a tankless water heater from a gas furnace, now it's just electricity that's really kind of powering the appliance itself, so it significantly minimizes it. However, when you start looking at the much larger, bigger picture, depending on how the electricity is generated in your area, when you start thinking about utilities, that it becomes a bigger picture, but that becomes a completely more complicated. But for that pollutants during heating and cooking, it's significantly minimized. I do not have immediate numbers, but there are definitely, it really depends on the appliance, the manufacturer, and they're significantly more efficient at that. And Wendy Wilson, is propane the same problem as natural gas? So when we're talking about like propane, methane gas, natural gas, it really kind of like, this is my presentation and the information, it really kind of covers that. Of course, propane is not widely used as much. I mean, of course, if you're thinking about mobile homes, there is propane gas usage, and a lot of the health issues are similarly connected. Good question.
Ernesto, there's another question that Andrew had answered, but we would love your take on it as well. From Hector, also wanted to know, are there smells to any of the gases that you mentioned, or are they all kind of invisible pollutants? And then the follow-up to that is there a way to monitor for all of the gases at home, similar to a carbon monoxide detector?
Right. Yeah. So and the way Andrew answered it, more often than not, there's no smell. Usually, what of course, propane, you could easily smell it and you could distinguish that smell uniquely. And more often than not, the reason why propane smells is they add that smell so that you could detect a gas leak. Um, when you're running methane gas or a gas stove at home, if there's a leak, 9 times out of 10, you really don't smell it unless the ventilation or there's no outward airflow is so bad that it gets concentrated. But some of those hints when you know there's something bad in the air, it's that immediate headache or feeling nauseous. That could be a potential indicator that there's a large presence of these pollutants. Um, Now the follow-up, is there a way to monitor for all these gases at home, kind of like a monitor carbon monoxide detector? There there are others that kind of detect like carbon monoxide, particulate matter, and the level of humidity. There's a variety of those on Amazon, and even also too if you go to your utility company, some of them show them like as indoor air quality monitors, but there really isn't a kind of one all catch-all monitor. And then also to some of these monitors, depending on how much you want to spend, could just say like high level, but it won't give you an exact amount. The more you spend, the more bells and whistles you get with it. And I will definitely look into that, Hector, just to see if there's more of one-all catch-alls. There is a very low expense monitor, and this was kind of done out in somewhere in Sweden or Europe, where it essentially is just like a cuckoo clock. If the air is bad, it just drops down. And then if the air is bad inside your home, it just drops down, which is an indicator that air quality is bad at home. And it goes back up once it kind of like clears out. And now include that as well in the information that's sent out. And Hector, yeah, Andrew, thank you for including that video. I will share the slide deck for everyone who registered and everyone who's participating in this. Now, I think the last thing I wanted to do, and Andrew, if you want to jump in on this point, by all means, let me go ahead and share my screen again. So this is a pretty nifty tool. It's from Focus on Energy. It's really awesome, and usually I like to play with it, where it gives you kind of what rebates are available, especially if you're as a resident. So if you're a homeowner, Joanna, can you give me a zip code?
Sure, 53186.
53186. Let's say you're a household of five. I'll take the median income of Waukesha County, which is around 89,000. Let's say your gas utility is We Energies and your electric utility is We Energies. You hit search and it'll give you all the rebates and instant discounts that you qualify based on your income, your household size, and your zip code, which is really awesome. And the cool thing is, let's say a $300 immediate instant discount for a heat pump water heater. When you click learn more, it explains what it is, how efficient it is, and how much it could potentially save you. And it also gives you a kind of good estimate of, if you're thinking about this upgrade, these are some things you might want to consider. Like, what is your water heater more than 10 years old? Is your hot water not lasting as long? If there's rust or discoloration, so on and so forth. So it's a really nifty tool. If you're thinking about a natural gas boiler, there's also more information on that, something more efficient. Same thing, like as you're thinking about like more efficient things, there's definitely here. Then also, like I mentioned earlier, if you're thinking of a home, like whole home upgrade. So when you're thinking about like an electric panel, larger electric upgrades, there are kind of like federal tax rebates available. Then you could play around insulation, focus on energy. There's a $75 rebate just for duct sealing, insulation walls, so on and so forth. It's a really nifty tool.
All right, does anyone have any additional questions for Ernesto or for Andrew? If so, we'll give you a minute to drop it in the Q&A, and I did turn the chat on. I apologize, I didn't realize that was turned off. All right, and while I'm giving you an opportunity to type those questions in, I just wanted to point out a couple additional resources for folks. So in the we have a website that we are using for this Electrify Your Home, Electrify Your Life series, and it is energyevents.org. And if you were to go to that website, we have several webinars on demand. We will be adding more webinars in the upcoming weeks on what exactly is an induction stove, and really dig deep into those home energy rebates and tax incentives that are currently available. What is a heat pump? So we'll be offering all those webinars coming up, as well as I want to lift up this great resource in case you leave here today and you have additional questions. Andrew Butts, who is the founder of Green Neighbor Challenge, offers up home energy office hours once a month. And that is simply an open Zoom meeting where you can drop in and ask Andrew and other experts any question you have about home energy upgrades during that hour. So it's a great resource. It is completely free. You just sign up and ask an expert your question. And you can stick around for the whole hour. You can ask and leave. It's totally up to you. So again, that is energyevents.org is that website. All right, did we have any other questions come in?
So Kate asked, so putting the link for that in the chat, and Andrew's link is just as amazing, if not more. I would definitely push you all towards Andrew's link. And the follow-up question was also, are there rebates at risk from the big beautiful bill? To answer that question in short, yes. A lot of the funding, the credits, and the rebates are a little bit on more solid ground, but a lot of the credits, which I didn't get a chance, I did not want to spend too much time given the current climate that we are in. They are not only at risk, but there's also have been a lot of proposed rollbacks on energy efficiency standards for appliances, both at residential and commercial level, and even also to eliminating funding for the Energy Star program. So I know when a lot of people buy, and myself included, when I buy a new product, whether it's a new monitor or a new or recently like a new fridge, if I would always look for that Energy Star label, just because I know that manufacturers and EPA and DOE and a lot of other agencies have already seen it as this is an efficient appliance, or this is an efficient computer, or this is an efficient monitor, so on and so forth. There are proposed weekend standards and elimination of Energy Star, which affects the larger conversation we have as we're thinking about electrifying and upgrading our appliances, in eliminating these standards, weakening the standards, rolling back Energy Star. Now there's going to be a flux of inefficient products, inefficient appliances, not to mention the weakening of the standards is going to make it a little bit more difficult to assess and reduce emissions, lower utility bills, and really safeguarding public health associated with these appliances. So it is a risk. There is a big risk. However, there's been a lot of kind of just pushing back and ensuring that a lot of this is protected. American Lung Association, ourselves, we have been very strong and very active at protecting and safeguarding everything associated with helping us breathe easy and protecting our public health. And one of those things is submitting comments to ensure that the standards are strengthened, if not are not rolled back. Also, there was a letter with more than 1,100 companies and organizations that urged the EPA to maintain full funding and staffing levels at Energy Star.
Ernesto, if each of us could do two things today to reach out to somebody to help protect those standards, what would be your suggestion? What do you think has the most impact for our actions?
Good question. Good question. And I do have a quick answer to that.
Ooh.
So we do have a link, and I'll drop it in right here on the chat. So we do have an action going on with the Lung Association where you click it in, and it's essentially, it sends a letter to your elected official that to defend Energy Star and federal efficiency standards for appliances. Quick and easy. Click the link, put your information, sends a email to your federal representative, so your senators and your representative. That's the first quick action. The other quick action that you could do, especially if you're at the more local level, it's really engaging with local elected officials to see like, hey, some of these rebates or programs are going to be cut at the national level. What are you doing to protect them or to secure them in some way, shape, or form at the county or at the state level? And that will be kind of one of the things that we're all not shifting, but also doing as well. Just as we're protecting things and being proactive at the federal level, we're also working with states and local counties to strengthen or to just kind of expand upon some of these standards and programs.
And Andrew just pointed out as well that Rewiring America has this great idea of reaching out to your local contractors and asking them to contact their senators, since many of them are very sensitive to messages from small business owners. So that's a great idea as well. So. All right. Well, I don't see any additional questions coming in. After today, we are going to follow up with an email with all of these great resources in there. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much, Ernesto and Andrew, for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. And I encourage everybody to consider taking an action today to help. All right, thank you.